Yeah, welcome everybody. As Kai said, we want to talk about the new JAX-RS whiteboard specification in OSGi R7 and working together with the HTTP whiteboard in OSGi. So let me introduce ourselves. This is Jürgen and I am Mark. We are the founders of DatainMotion, a company located in Jena in Thuringia, which is the center of Germany. We are a small company, mostly OSGi related. Our second main area is the modeling stuff. All the EMF stuff we use with OSGi in our systems. Right. So today we want to introduce you into the OSGi HTTP whiteboard, as well as the OSGi JAX-RS whiteboard, which is new in the R7 specification, just arriving. And we will show you how they both can work together, how you can combine the JAX-RS whiteboard specification, just taking profit of the HTTP whiteboard. We will show you advantages and some certain use cases, how to use it, and this will then be a showcase.
Macht sich, glaube ich, einfach. So, hello, I hope everybody can understand me well, even in the back of the room. Yeah, the main thing, OSGi, HTTP and REST is one of the most common things that are used in application servers or in general in every servers and communications. So, servlets have been around for ages now. Everybody must have used them at some point or another. In recent times, most applications simply use REST services or use some kind of REST resources to build their APIs, because they are the easier and faster way to do it with implementations like Jersey, REST Easy, or you name it. And yeah, basically we are doing the same for years now, but most of the frameworks that are around that support both servlets and REST have one big problem. They are usually configured in a static manner. So everybody of you knows the web XML, where you have to put your servlets and we have to configure your REST application in your Tomcat, JE server, whatever you use. Even in some OSGi applications or OSGi environments, you have to define it in such a manner, in such a way. And usually it is not that dynamic. So if you want to reload your application, you have to redeployment, then you have to unload all the stuff and you have to reload all the stuff. So, and this is where OSGi and the mentioned specifications kick in. They give it a dynamic approach where you can dynamically add your resources, can make your resource depend on other services and stuff. For example, you have a resource that should only be available if the service that provides, for example, the data objects is available, and if not, then another service should be, or another REST API must be available. Then you can do it with OSGi services. And yeah, the specifications are the modern or the now specified and generalized way to do something like this. Just a little side story, in our previous projects we used heavily Eclipse JAX, maybe somebody knows it. A server project which is based on multi-nodes and all this stuff, and they had a neat little feature that you could have a bundle, and if you defined in a bundle a JAX-RS application, the background mechanism scanned through the bundle, scanned through all the annotations and said, oh, here are my REST applications, put them to your configuration and made the REST application available with all the stuff, so you could install and uninstall them. But you always had to do it in one bundle. Your application was defined in one bundle, and that was basically it. And due to the fact that it was using Jersey 1.17 or something like this, it was kind of old, the technology behind it. And through some class loader issues, you couldn't really reload an application. So yeah, now the upcoming specs really take care of this. And like Mark said, we want to show you just not only in theory, you might have seen a few examples till now in previous presentations, and we want to show you how it is done in the real thing, in the real world, and give you a framework which can do it actually. So if somebody wants to try it out by itself, yeah, that's it. First of all, the name HTTP or JAX-RS whiteboard specifications. One question, does everybody know what the whiteboard is in OSGi? So please raise your hands. I see nods all around. So I think we don't have to define it. So we can jump over the next slide. Yeah, the HTTP whiteboard, quite simple, is around since R6 with the most common implementation of the Jetty HTTP, the Felix Jetty HTTP bundle, which provides the runtime and all the stuff. It's got a minor update now in R7 that it enables it to handle multi-part requests, file uploads and stuff, but nothing drastic. Yeah, and it allows, like it would be expected of an OSGi specification, the dynamic registration of servlets, filters, listeners, the pulling up of new whiteboards on the fly and pulling them down for different protocols, different ports, and so on and so forth. And giving you an isolated environment where your servlets could run in, so nothing bleeds from one whiteboard to another, even if the same servlet is registered there, as long as you don't register it as a single service. Yeah, and it's easy to configure via the S and config admin. So, and all these concepts have to be tried to push forward to JAX-RS, which I will hand over to Mark, because Mark actually did the implementation for it.
Yeah. Yes, the JAX-RS Whiteboard is currently new, and it's coming in R7, and it's based on the same principles like the HTTP whiteboard in general. But it works just for JAX-RS. So it's about dynamic registration of JAX-RS application, JAX-RS resources and extension, which are message body reader, interceptors, and so on. And to combine them together, to say, in former times you had to create an JAX-RS application, and then you said you have to register resources using the get classes or get singletons methods in the application, and overwrite this and register your stuff. That's a very static way, and the JAX-RS specification support that. So if you have legacy, we call it legacy applications, and you want to migrate from an existing JAX-RS implementation that uses such a pattern, you can use that in JAX-RS Whiteboard too. But it's not extensible. You can use it as it is. So with your overwritten get classes, get singleton stuff, and nothing else. On the other hand, there is the extensible part where you only have to register in JAX-RS application, and then register your JAX-RS resources and extensions. And you have to use the service properties to bind them all together. There are filters defined in the same manner like in the HTTP whiteboard, where you can bind a resource to an application, or say a resource depends on a certain extension, message body reader writer, for instance, that produces JSON, XML, or something like that. And in the same manner like the HTTP whiteboard, even the JAX-RS whiteboard isolates all the resources. Each whiteboard is just like a tenant. And you can register an application for this tenant and for another tenant too, but both are isolated. These are certain different instances like you would do in a JEE application, but it's really hard to do to set up a new tenant with a new port, you might know. Yeah. Yeah, and how do both fit together? Because they are in the same style, they work together. One important point in two whiteboards is that each whiteboard has a custom runtime service. The HTTP whiteboard has a HTTP service runtime, and JAX-RS whiteboard has a runtime service too, with a change count where you can see if anything has changed in your configuration. You have the OSGi specific DTOs, which reflect the inner state of your setup. So that's the point where we hook in and we created an implementation based on Jetty, just for the HTTP whiteboard, and an integration of Jersey for the JAX-RS whiteboard. We use the current version of both, and we have to say it's not completely full spec reliant, but we're working on it, especially for the JAX-RS implementation. There's another implementation for the JAXRS Whiteboard already. That's the reference implementation, which is based on Apache CXF, which is currently in work, as far as I know. Yeah. So what we do is, just dynamic register the Jersey servlets. Jersey has different possibilities to register its JAXRS stuff. And one of them is to just create a servlet. And that's the way we integrate the JAXRS whiteboard into the HTTP service. So I think let's switch over.
Yeah, so all the things we have described right now, we will show you, also not all the things, but I think a little bit of a real worldish use case we'd like to show you now in the demo. We will not go into every nook and cranny of the API and show everyone, but we will give you a general idea how it works, how you can register your stuff, what the effects are when you're registering it. So this is what you will see next. And in order to do so now I'm interested in what will happen now. Nothing happens because, give me a second. You hold the microphone for me? Nice.
Yeah, we will not be too technical.
Yeah.
So we will show how it works, how cool it is, and what are the common use cases.
Can you roughly see what I'm showing here, especially in the back? It's a little bit small, but yeah, okay. So I will only slightly go through the use case. There's nothing that much to see. When we look in the code, then yes, we have our demo project. We have here consists of two actual products. We want to present to the user, to our tenants, or it should be able to get new tenants on board and on the system. And we have the two products. The one is Jura, a ticketing system. No comparisons intended here, and the Cambria, like a wiki in this case. Both are quite similar and quite straightforward. We have in the sources two REST APIs. One for the mobile, one mobile API, and one which can be used for the UI. They consist of a simple resource. Is this somehow readable?
This resource is just a service component defined with service properties, and we have one important property here which says it's a JAX-RS resource is true. We give it a name, which is in this case mobile article resource, and we have an application select, which is an LDAP style filter which binds this resource to an application with this application ID. That's the same like you are doing static in the get classes, get singleton stuff.
On the other hand, we have the UI REST resource, which is exactly the same, but just prints out a little bit something a little bit different and targets another application, which is defined by this target filter string. Everybody knows OSGi services usually throw around magic strings like hell. With the upcoming R7, you are able to use annotations for this. Unfortunately, my BND version, the BND version I use, does not support it right now. I think 4.0 will has it definitely built in, so which will in the end enable you to write your own custom annotation for your own application. So the developer using it in the end just has to annotate it and say this is a Jura resource, and then all the stuff we are defining here in a property battle will be predefined for the user, and it will be easier to avoid problems and errors here. So as we can see, we have defined two applications. One time the UI application, one time the mobile application. We are defining our applications and our implementation via the configuration admin. So in this case, we just say, okay, here we have our properties. We have the application, which has a base of UI, so as a URL base, and has a name. And we say, okay, this application will target a whiteboard, again with a filter. And on the other, the resource, we had a filter as well to target this application by the self-given application ID we have set here. So every resource that has this filter for application ID is like Cambria UI will target this application and will be added to this application dynamically in the end. What else have we defined here? We have defined the same thing we have for the mobile application. It's defined in a similar manner. Nothing magic here. And one more thing, we have defined the servlet context, the Cambria context, which is registered as a servlet itself, which just says, okay, we define all our stuff under the context Cambria. So in the end, we will get, when this application is registered, we will get a URL structure like Cambria/UI/article or Cambria/mobile/article and so on and so forth. So the usual REST manner.
Yeah. This is just the context root path.
Yeah. Basically. So and then now we have our application, and the Jura application is exactly the same. So it's just printing out a little bit other stuff. So I will not go into detail here, just you know. And the other thing is we have our tenants, and the tenants in this case we deploy them as a kind of bundle, which in turn simply pulls up a configuration. So we have our tenant A. Which defines its whiteboard and says, okay, tenant A is listening on port 8080. He is customer A, and he has two properties, and this is Jura is enabled for him, Jura is true, and Cambria is true, meaning if both applications are there, then he gets both applications in the end. So, and then this is one thing which our current implementation forces us to do, which will be fixed next week, is we have to define the whiteboards for the applications themselves for every tenant. In our later version, you can just define it once in your application, like the context or the application bundles themselves. Right now, we have one level. We have to set it one level deeper. And we say, okay, this is our whiteboard, our JAX-RS whiteboard. Again, we define our Jura, or here in this case, our Cambria. Cambria is true. So the layered above applications target this is Cambria true. So it will be attached here. And we say, okay, again, we target the HTTP whiteboard of customer A. And we say the whiteboard context we want to apply is the Cambria product we have defined before and registered as a servlet, as a service.
So in the end, with the new configuration specification in R7, you can ease your pain creating a JSON file from it, and once set up all this in one configuration file and run it against the configuration admin. And the advantage of this style is Jura as well as Cambria are applications for a certain customer, and if he buys another license, then maybe he can get another application running under another URL. And you can change that during runtime. We can just add a new property and say configuration admin update, and then we have a new configuration, and that's what we will show.
Yeah. So that's not exactly what I plan to show, but we will try. So now that now we are set. So to show you how you gradually can deploy the applications and the stuff in your system, we have a small base setup. We say we have our tenant bundle, our Jura bundles, which are the core, which defines the context. We start with the Jura application and the mobile and UI stuff. We have split bundles, so these come out of the one project. Everything is combined with the correct requirements and capabilities. So this is everything you actually need to set up the whole system. So if I press now on resolve, even if I would only have the mobile stuff in it, you will see here, okay, we are pulling out the HTTP stuff. Here we have the Jetty server and so on and so forth, and everything it requires. So this is as it should be. So no dependency hell to handle here. And yeah, we'll just start the basic setup. And it is already running.
And we have to say that the whiteboard tenant A and all the Jura bundles just only contain a setup and the applications or resources, nothing else. So
it is already running, so I'm interested what we will see what we will see next. So first of all, we will try to reach one of the resources. So we go for 8080 Jura /RT. No, Jura was ticket, I think, ticket /my ID. And here we are getting for 8080 the port of our customer, the response in the UI fashion with my ID. I've given to it. Mobile the same. So mobile with one I. And here we have it in the mobile fashion, which is the other resource in the end. So, so this is quite nice for a start. But the cool thing always is if you can see something. That's why we have created a small UI, which is kind of a monitoring system. You might know it from HA proxy, something like this, which shows if everything is online. And like in the most real projects, you start up doing something and you say, okay, this is our first version, we deploy it. Usually the management says, okay, we have to deploy it before some real important date, like Black Friday or something like this. So this is the situation here. It was first day we deployed it, everything worked fine. On Friday morning, the guys from operations are calling and saying, HA proxy is telling us everything's down. And we look into the system and think, what's the problem, what's the problem? And then we look here and see our customer, the Jura ticketing system, the different UIs, and here we see, oh, we are going for a ping resource. So we need a ping resource on every UI application that we see that this application is really available. So this is what we will do now. Quickly, we rigged up our ping resource. We will look into this right now, which in turn is also only a simple resource that has one major thing. It defines that it will target every application. With this, everything that has an application name of any kind will get this resource. So, and it will just, you will see, okay, on activation it will write out ping, but this is nothing really of interest. And yeah, and here this is what it will return. And this is what the UI is looking for in the end. So this, we will do this right now, and we'll do it split screen, so we will see immediately what happens.
And yep, you can do it.
And the UI will update every 2 seconds, so we have a small delay in it here.
And as you might have noticed, that the components are created as a prototype service, which means that every request that in JAX-RS comes in creates a new service instance of ping, and as well, not just one. We don't have just one resource of ping. Each application gets its own instance. So, and it creates its own instances using the prototype services in OSGi.
So, and now I will press save, and thanks to BND, something will happen, hopefully. Give it another second, and we will see an error report. Nothing happens. This is how it should be. I think we will retry it in another fashion. It was kind of expected.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't expected to be green.
Yeah, that is what I mean. So we'll try the use case again when I get it right here. So we will remove it first to get the same stage as before. say run. Everything comes up. And now I take again my ping resource. Where is it? Ping. Pull it over and say save.
You need to resolve first before it lands.
Nope. Here it is. It's auto resolve.
Yeah.
So, but here we see now our ping resource is available on on our application we currently have. So then the thing is, okay, we move forward with this and we get a new customer. So now we want to deploy a new customer. Due to the fact, to some limitations, we can't use Docker with our own images and so on and so forth. So this is why the decision was made to, in basic, define the customers on the same VM via the different ports. So the next customer, the customer B, who has only bought, where's the setup? Customer B has only, so here we are. Customer B gets his own whiteboard again, this time on port 8081. We say, okay, he only has bought Jura because for nothing else he has paid for. And we pull up the JAXRS whiteboard again, and we will deploy this and see what happens. Tenant B will surprise us, hopefully, with green lights. Here we are, tenant B is now available, and we can show here on 8081, Jura is responding as expected. So this is how easy it basically is. You can build your UI around the around all this configuration stuff, and yeah, that's the way to go. So, and to take it one step further, the development moves along. Jura was the first product we have released, and everything worked fine. And we have the customer A is still the one who is saying, "Hey, we want all of your products." So he decides to get. He has decided to get Cambria as well up front when it's ready. So we just deploy the other application and say save again. And where are we? And now we are seeing that he has suddenly become available for the mobile stuff as well. And because customer B really, really likes this, and because Mark said we should do it, I will try to update the tenant. In this case, due to the fact that we are doing with via the bundle, we delete the configuration and creating a new one. So it's no real update in this case, but it should work the same nonetheless. So we define Cambria true, and we quickly have to rig up live coding. Usually works.
And in the sense of microservices, this is a very, very cool way to create new instances of Jersey on different ports or different URLs. We are not restricted to this port. We can say, oh, Jersey is always running on port 8080, but we use for customer A the URL customer A / something and customer B / something. It's just a matter of configuration here, but both ways are possible. It's even possible to say we have a customer which runs on 2 ports, or we have a third whiteboard that is shared across customers. So usually you created a lot of microservices, or maybe in Spring, new instances running in Docker on a certain port, and then this whole thing is mapped, and you have to stop the Docker image when you reconfigure something. This is really an easy way to do it. And that's the OSGi way. And yeah, I think we are at the end.
No, nearly, almost. Yeah, a few additional words to this stuff. So, like I said, it's quite easy. You have to wrap your head around all the properties you have to set. You have to keep track of them. So, as I was setting this up, it was quite easily done, creating all the classes and services and so on and so forth. But yeah, one typo in your property and you're kind of screwed. So, because it will not show up anywhere. That's the disadvantage, or not really the disadvantage. It works as expected, but it's hard to debug in some manners. So this is the reason.
Really, because you have in the runtime service the DTOs.
Yeah.
And usually there is a difference. One DTO application, resource, and extension has an own DTO and failed DTO. So you can see which of your resources are in the runtime service up and running or not, which are failed DTOs or active DTOs. So you have the possibility with the DTOs to inspect in this whole Jersey system.
So we haven't shown this because this is the only thing which is not ready at the moment. We have 1 or 2 minor bugs we have already taken care of, but not included it in the demo because last minute changes are usually not good. So we intend to, we have an upcoming project where we will definitely use this. So if somebody else wants to use it, it's open source. You will can find it here. This is the repo, this is the GitLab repository for the demo, and in our open source section in GitLab you can find the implementation as well. So if somebody wants to use it or wants to take a look at it and a shot at it, feel free. Like we said, it's not finished. We haven't run the compliance test against it till now, but we think we are on the path of the spec in this case. And so everybody knows it's not production ready now, but it will be soon. The other thing is we talked about our own Jetty whiteboard implementation. Just yesterday, I've decided to skip it, and we will not develop it further because there's exactly the same implementation or with this by the Apache guys, the Apache Felix. Yesterday I've tried to move it. It was quite easy to move all the stuff. It was only 2 dependencies I had to change, and everything worked. Basically, the only problem at the moment is with the HTTP, the Felix implementation. It does not forward the additional properties I have to use on my HTTP whiteboard. But I have already talked to Carsten, and we will have a fix soon. So I will send him the patch, and he told me to fast forward. He will fast forward it if it's a good solution. So we hope we could show you a real-world application where you could get an idea of how to use it, maybe in your application or your next projects. We thank you for your attendance, and do you have any questions?
How do you provision your service in production? Bringing new bundles?
Yeah, that's the thing. We are relatively new, we have to admit, to using really BND and all the other stuff. Until recently, we've used P2 for it. Okay. I'm not sure if this will be the solution for the future, but we are not decided right now. So we are open for suggestions.
Felix file install can do it. It's no matter how you get your bundle installed.
Yeah. So
there are many possibilities in OSGi to get bundles installed using UBR. Yeah. So that's not the problem.
Yeah. So, and we have no detailed solution right now. So that's the thing.
All right. Any more questions?
Yeah.
So in a scenario that maybe you are persisting, because essentially you are demonstrating a multi-tenant application, right? Multi-tenant service, and then you are lighting up applications based on what the customer is acquiring for maybe for his offerings or something like that. So in a scenario that maybe you're updating the information about the customer, maybe he goes on your website and he purchases that application, that information might get updated in a database because that's maybe where you're keeping everything about that customer, right? And maybe the list of applications is one of the information you would keep, not in a configuration, but in the database. Is there a way to natively update what applications that basically do what you did there, but picking up that information from the database instead of running configuration? I'm guessing that one way would be write all that plumbing code, let you read that information from the database and you update the configuration. But if there was a way that automatically you can pick it up from the database and do that natively.
You can use different backing stores for the config admin. This would be one solution where you can directly handle the stuff and monitor your database. In our case, we're using EMF, and we have the ability to simply say, okay, we want to have a change listener on customer product Jura true or false, also to get the information and the update from there. So if somebody clicks on change for the customer, then the system knows, oh, I have to update the configuration here with Jura, like is now false. So that's something we can easily do in our system, but there's no real predefined way at the moment, I guess. So, but there are lots of
It's not
simple
impossible,
solutions.
Yeah, and I don't think that the effort is not quite large
Yeah.
to do such thing. That's a major idea, not to create configurations by ourselves. It's just for this use case.
Yeah.
Usually, it should be run automatically, as you said.
Yeah. So we try to find the most basic way to show the showcase or the use case without going into using too much other frameworks and stuff. So we wanted to for you to see it basically how it is. So
We don't sell any applications on such systems. We just build them.
Yeah, and like I said, if you want to try it out yourself, in the slides you also find the Git lab URL to this demo project. So if somebody wants to use it and try it out, the B&D workspace is there. Just have fun with it.
And the issue tracker is open for all of them. Okay. Thank you.
What?
One
No.
more question? No? All right. So maybe just as a a side note, R7 the spec work is now, let's say, in its final stages.
Yep.
So we've